no man is an island. You evolved in a fucking tribe. You evolved with a band of brothers, with a brethren that kept your community or your family alive. Whether it was 2, 3, 4, 7 of you. So you're not alone. This male isolation is a pandemic that we are facing today as a modern society.
Welcome to the Superhuman Life. I'm your host, Frank Rich, and this is the only podcast in the world dedicated to helping men break free from the shackles of addiction through the power of faith and fitness. It is our goal with every episode to help you take back control and rebuild your body, mind, and spirit. And we do so by bringing you real and raw conversations with people just like you, aiming to find their place in this world while dealing with the everyday struggles and battles that we all face. Now, it is my belief that we were all created for a specific purpose. And if we can harness that belief or faith, then take control of our mind and body or fitness, then we can ultimately create the life that we've always dreamed about, our own superhuman life. I want to let you know how grateful and blessed I am to have you here with me today. Let's get on to today's show. What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode here of the Superhuman Life. As always, I'm your host, Frank Rich. And guys, I can't tell you how incredibly excited I am for today's conversation. Have a incredibly intelligent, insightful, and experienced guest that we're going to be sharing with you today. And as you guys know, the mission of the show, or if you don't, if this is your first time tuning in, first off, I want to thank you for lending us your time and lending us your ear. And it is my hope and prayer that this podcast and this conversation speaks to you. But back to the mission of the show. As you guys know, we are dedicated to helping men break free from the shackles of addiction through the power of faith and fitness. And a lot of the work we do, a lot of the conversations we have, our coaching program is focused on the growth aspects of recovery. It's focused on becoming the person that is no longer addicted. So we talk a lot about creating visions for your life, putting them into action steps, and then executing upon those daily. But as we know, maybe you don't know, and you'll uncover that in today's conversation, but most of us know that a lot of times our addictions or our compulsive behaviors, they tend to come from perhaps some childhood trauma, perhaps some unsettled emotional trauma. You may be familiar with the works of Carl Jung, Joseph Campbell, and maybe even somebody more modern like the great Jordan Peterson, where we talk about, or they talk about, understanding your ego and coming to relationship with your own shadow. So that's where we're going to take a little bit of today's conversation. It's how our past can really control our present and have complete control over our future if we're not consciously aware of these issues, consciously aware of our own shadow and our own ego. So we're going to get into some of that stuff here today. But guys, I have somebody that is a new contact to me. We only got connected a few weeks ago, but in doing a lot of the research and prepping for today's conversation, I can tell you that I know that our relationship is going to grow and evolve into something much, much greater than just what you're going to hear today. So our guest on today's show is none other than Stefanos Sifandos. Believe I said that correct. Stefanos Sifandos, or as we'll get to know him, Steph. Steph is a love and relationship coach. He's a masculine and feminine expert, really understanding the balance between masculine and feminine energy and why you need to understand both, how we both operate and live in both, and how to go back and forth between the two. Stefanos does some incredible work with his wife through their coaching, through their programs. Make sure to check them out. They have an upcoming workshop available here at the end of this month that you guys want to get tuned into. But all in all, he is a consciousness expander with the goal of demystifying dating dynamics. So guys, he's He's focused on helping you understand who you are so you can show up for the other person 100% in your relationship. But yeah, guys, incredible wisdom, incredible insight, bringing loads of experience. We're talking all things father figures, the role of the father, both in terms of seeing somebody that you idolize succeed, but then also why you need to see your father fail and bounce back. Super insightful there. We talk about the importance of inner work. Steph has an incredible concept called manning in. Most of you may be familiar with man up, but love to get his take on what it means to man in. And then obviously just understanding our own ego, our own shadow, and just being consciously aware of our thoughts, feelings, and actions. So incredible conversation, guys. Tons of wisdom packed into this. If it spoke to you, make sure to leave us a 5-star rating, written review if you have not done so yet. But most importantly, guys, help us grow the reach, help us grow the mission of the show by sharing it with as many people as possible. But that's it, guys. Love you so much. We'll see you on the other side. But get ready. Talking father figures, manning in, and understanding your consciousness with Stefanos Stefandos. Steph, my brother, welcome to the Superhuman Life.
Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate being here.
Absolutely, man. And like I was telling you before we hit record, man, I had quite a bit of fun the last couple days, kind of in the prep work, in researching you. So I'm really excited to get into your work. And I mean, you just have some incredible courses and coaching. But I think the best place to really start, I heard you described on one of the podcasts you were on as a relationship alchemist.
Yeah.
So I'm curious if you can maybe just kind of give us the quick rundown of what you do, the kind of work that you really are most passionate about, but then really, how does somebody get into the kind of work that you're doing? I think if we could kind of unpack your story a little bit here in the path that you took, I think that we could really, pull out some real value for our listeners today.
Yeah, of course, man. Yeah, I appreciate you asking. So the interesting thing is relationship alchemy is just transformation. So, I was looking at my life a lot and thinking, we have undesirable experiences and desirable experiences, experiences that we gravitate towards, like having sex, eating good food, being in good company, whatever it may be. These are desirable experiences. Then we have undesirable experiences, like getting into an argument, losing our jobs, whatever it may be, right? Breaking up with someone. And so we are beings of, pleasure. We gravitate towards what feels good. It's called hedonistic behavior. But that wasn't so much the issue that I had. We have undesirable and desirable experiences, sure. But what happens when we keep repeating the same shit over and over again? That was the issue that I had. Like people, and in my life, I just kept living in the shadow. I kept having relationships that weren't working, they were breaking down, argumentative, tension, friction. I was cheating in those relationships, constantly lying, couldn't be myself. I was in this undesirable state consistently. And so I started thinking about that more, and I started thinking about relationship dynamics and what drives that. And so I delved deeper into the inner child wounding. I delved deeper into developmental psychology. I understand how do we behave as human beings and why do we do these things that we do. And really, relationship alchemy, or being a relational alchemist, is just taking us from those perpetual, undesirable, unconscious states that we are in into a more desirable way to be. It doesn't mean we're never going to have challenges. It doesn't mean we're never going to experience difficulty. But we're not going to be coming from that unconscious, unresolved wounding. The core wounds that are inflicted during our developmental years when we're kids, from the ages of 0 to, say, 12, that stay with us, they imprint on us as adults, and we just keep making the same choices as adults, but with different people. So that's what really being a relational alchemist is about. And I just spend my life researching, understanding, reflecting on my own experiences, working with thousands of people, and I enjoy that. But it also came from a lot of hardship. It came from making a lot of mistakes, fucking up, hurting other people, not being in my truth, being disingenuous, and really learning and growing from that, working with other people, with other mentors and psychologists and shamans and spiritual healers and counselors, and psychiatrist. Like I went really deep, man, really to understand myself. And it's a process that does, it's a journey that's ongoing, right? Like I'm consistently unpacking and unraveling myself in order to be that best version of myself for others as well.
Yeah, amazing. Ton that I want to unpack there in what you said, and really want to get to that child shadow, and really dissolving your ego, and some of the things you mentioned there, because I think really with where we're going, and a lot of the guys that I speak with, and for me it's understanding. I think you use the pleasurable behaviors type of things. I mean, so a lot of the guys that we're talking to here are, they're struggling with, some compulsive behaviors. Could be addictions to pornography, masturbation, sex addiction. And these are speaking all to our unconscious. I mean, these are these kind of pleasurable habits that we default to. Curious in your journey, because I know for me that there were a handful of like really pivotal moments that kind of woke me up, kind of woke in the unconscious, to where I needed to then go deeper into some of that childhood unresolved trauma. Were there a handful of pivotal moments, or one key defining moment kind of in your journey, or was this just kind of a collective through your experiences?
Yeah, so there were key defining moments, but the greatest catalyst, and I'll speak to that, is I was in a relationship with a woman a number of years ago, and she found out that I was being unfaithful, and everything started to really unpack from there. We were together about 4 years, and she discovered that, I mean, to be very clear, I left my phone in the car. She went through some of my emails, there's an old email there, and it just started unraveling from there, and I made a choice to just get super honest, and she wanted to know. And I was a lot younger. I was immature. I didn't understand, and that's not an excuse. But I was just completely disconnected from the relationship, like prostitution, pornography, being with other women, pursuing other women whilst I was in this, what I put on as a monogamous, socially and sexual monogamous relationship with this woman, and completely dishonored her and was dishonoring myself. And I started looking at that. And the question I asked myself is, why am I with someone but wanting to be with all these other women? Like, what's actually happening here? Is it a thing that is, hey, it's a male thing, or is it a thing that it's my age? Like, what is it? Or is it something that's actually driving me, that's unresolved within me? And I started to unpack that. And for me, and men, I know many men can relate to this, it was a fear of commitment and a fear of losing my freedom. And the way that I regained my power or a sense of control was to be with multiple women. Some people use drugs. Some people make a heap of money. Some people go to alcohol. Some people, whatever it is, we all have these mechanisms where we're seeking control, or we're numbing and avoiding, or both. And that was what I was doing, man. And I started looking at that, and I thought, I just don't want to be this person anymore. If I want to be with all these different women, then I'm just going to be single. But I wasn't thinking like that then. And so that's when I started unpacking my stuff. And I had a lot of issues with my parents, my father, big father wounding there, abandonment from the father. He wasn't emotionally available, even physically available. My mother, there was an enmeshment and an emotional entanglement there, where she was projecting unconsciously her needs onto me as a little kid. I felt this massive responsibility. I felt, man, I was 6 years old, and I felt like I was an adult. I never had that quote unquote freedom as a kid. I was repressed. There was violence in my family, volatility. I didn't know who I was coming or going. I didn't know if one day I'd get hit, the next day I wouldn't be. It was just, I never had a childhood. And so as an adult, I played that shit out. I just wanted to be a kid. I just wanted to be free. I just wanted to do what I wanted to. And the way I structured my internal values was, well, I'm free when I'm doing what I want, whether that's climbing a mountain or having sex with whoever I want to have sex with. And I had to start shifting those values and those beliefs, man, because they were destroying so many of my relationships, and they were destroying myself. I was living with that guilt and that shame, and it was just difficult, man, really painful.
Yeah. Wow. I want to get to that father bit, because I saw a recent video that you did, and I definitely want to go there. Curious, when you're going through this, this initial process, What were some of the initial steps that you took to start unpacking, these issues? Was it seeking mentorship? Was it jumping into a course? Was it, a retreat where you ran away to the mountains? Was it an ego dissolution journey? I mean, just curious kind of what your path really looks like.
Man, it was a combination of all of that. But immediately I went to two ways. I sat in solitude with myself for a period of time, and I simultaneously sought support and professional support. So I was working with a psychologist to really unpack a lot of shame that was coming to the surface, a lot of pain, and really just dealing with that. And then I started to make some big decisions of who I wanted in my life, how I was going to be, what I was going to do, and discipline myself to be in that space. But beyond just discipline, started meeting myself with some more compassion, because, man, my inner critic and my inner voice was so harsh, and that was reflecting on my actions and on my action towards people and my behaviors. And so I did all those things, man. Energy healing, retreats, isolation, or solitude, should I say, deep inner reflection. I gave up my businesses. I went really deep, man, to begin to understand what makes up who I am.
Got it. Yeah. So what do you say? So let's say we have a listener here, and I mean, we're going to get into, some real value, here shortly, but, if there's a guy and he's hearing this, and, maybe he's in a similar boat, like he's got his wife, but the relationship is unfulfilled. So he's chasing money, chasing success. The fear I know a lot of guys face, I know this was in fact my case as well, when I was beginning to, sort out my addiction, is like, as a man, like, you want to do it all alone. Like asking for help is a sign of weakness. So what do you say to the man out there that, is perhaps, he's unsure, like, I got some things I need to unpack, but like, I don't need to reach out for help. Like, how do you coach guys, or what advice do you say to a guy when it comes to seeking help, whether it's reaching out to you or I mean, really going the therapy route? I mean, to really unpack this, like, what type of advice do you have for a man out there when it comes to asking for help?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I say is that I use logic with men, particularly because they're logic orientated. And so the first thing I say is, well, no man is an island. You evolved in a fucking tribe. You evolved with a band of brothers, with a brethren that kept your community or your family alive, whether it was 2, 3, 4, 7 of you. So you're not alone. This male isolation is a pandemic that we are facing today as a modern society, where men come to me and say, I don't have friendships. I don't really have a man that I can trust. That's bullshit. No, it's real for them, but it's bullshit. It shouldn't be that way. And it's that way because of our culture. It's that way because of many reasons, but we never evolved that way. We're relational beings. We are in relationship to something or someone all of the time, whether that someone is ourselves or someone outside of us. And so to think for a moment that you've got to do it all on your own, it's a fallacy. Now, self-reliance, absolutely. Do you need to be self-reliant? Fuck yeah. We have to be self-reliant. That's part of what not only makes us effective human beings, but makes us empowered men, being self-reliant. But there's a balance between being self-reliant and seeking help, and being supported, being witnessed, being seen by other men. These are ancient practices. Ancient tribes knew this secret, this wisdom, and they would take their boys transitioning into manhood on rites of passage. And part of that rites of passage was solitude, being by yourself, going through challenges by yourself. But guess what? When you come back to your tribe, to your father, to your uncles, to your brothers, to your friends, you were witnessed, you were welcomed by a group of men. And so we have to remember where we come from. And usually when I say that to men, it's a bit of an aha moment. They get it. They go, okay, maybe I don't have to do it alone. Look at Special Forces soldiers, some of the toughest guys in the world. They work in units. They work in pods, in 4s and 6s, whatever it may be. They work as a team. Small team, large team. What does that tell you?
Yeah.
Businesses, as
No,
well.
absolutely.
Sorry, but businesses. Businesses aren't built by just one person, they're built by a team of people.
So true. I had this just connecting to and resonating really with that whole the way that we kind of view our relationships. I've shared a story on multiple episodes here about in my early stages of my journey. Like I had a very close friend that like we would talk weekly, and there was a moment, and I've shared this exact story where we're getting off the phone, and for him, it was natural, as we entered the college, to say, "I love you, Frank," kind of as like as a male kind of sense of greeting and passing. And I can remember, like, because he said it, and then we hung up, and I texted him, almost like questioning him, like, "Dude, did you just say you love me? Like, give me your man card," type of thing. Like, you don't tell another dude you love him. But when I was able to shift, how I viewed everything, and now that I'm in this new stage, it's like that's one of the dudes. Like sometimes I just reach out to him just to let him know that I'm thinking about him, and then I love him because like I had that special connection. So, but I know for a long time, like I wasn't that dude. I was jacked alpha. Like to tell another man I loved him was a sign of weakness. But there's real power in having that connections in those relationships. So glad you went there. You've said it a few times, and you dropped the rite of passage, just like you can see my notes here. I want to get to the role of the father, and really, I think, really speaking at coaching the men, but let's talk about really the times that we're living in. I think a lot of things that you said there. I mean, the rate at which we have fatherless homes, it's the highest it's ever been. 50% of all marriages are end up in divorce, which leaves you really in a fatherless situation. 80% of men in prisons come from fatherless homes. You talked about the rite of passage, from a tribal perspective, like separation from the mother to then go become a man. So obviously this is something lacking in today's society. So if you can, I want to just open it up to you to kind of speak on the role of the father. I saw in a video that you recently did the need to have a father figure that you see succeed, but then also at the same time, one that you see fail and bounce back. And I love that the kind of way that you framed that video. So talk about the role of the father and go deeper into that initiation. And then really, if you can kind of summarize what you said on that video with having the father that's not just always winning, but seeing him kind of go through some failures, but then bounce back.
Yeah, well, let me actually start there. So, and we, as young boys, we need to be able to witness all versions of the father. And let me go back a little bit. So, as kids, right? Excuse me, as kids, we deify our parents. We make them gods. We make them the best thing since sliced bread, right? And that's very, very natural, very normal to do that. It's very normal for us to make our parents be larger than life. We look to them for survival, right? And so in doing that, we put them on a pedestal. And sometimes they're going to fall from grace. Most of the time they will, they're human. But that wound of disappointment and not being seen and not being held in a way that is super healthy for us, or we think is super healthy for us, it carries over into our adult relationships. And sometimes we'll see this version of our father that's really is horrific. He's aggressive, he's oppressive, he's controlling, he's subjugating, he's hating everyone, this unhealthy masculine. It's almost like a tyrannical king version, right? And then sometimes we see our father, and that's obviously that can cause a lot of damage to a young boy growing up as an adult. Usually he becomes aggressive himself or just hides away from the world and just is just scared of the masculine, scared of other men, can't trust other men, So there's a negative effect of that. But then there's the other side of things that we don't really pay too much attention to. And that is that we pedestalize our father and we never see him, quote unquote, make mistakes. We never see him fail. We never see him recover from challenge. And so we have this distorted view of what the masculine is. What that does is that makes us really hard on ourselves. So as adults, we're perfectionists. As adults, we can't make a mistake. As adults, enough is never enough. We're always striving for more, striving for more, striving for more. We develop these, personalities that are based on not seeing, if we make a mistake, we hate ourselves for it. If we fail, we think we're wrong, that we've fucked up. We're the worst thing ever. So we can't fail. Now, that rigidity, that places a lot of pressure on us and our relationships. And so we need to see men in our lives fall from grace. We need to see them make mistakes and how they pick themselves back up. Because if we have healthy men in our lives, a healthy father, how they pick themselves back up, the ownership and responsibility they take, and how they do that, that helps us know that it's okay to make a mistake. And how we recover from it and the way that we conduct ourselves and hold ourselves means more than making a choice that maybe wasn't in the best interest of self and everyone else involved. Because, man, we're going to make mistakes. We're humans. That's what a mistake is. It's a mistake. Next take, let's go. We get to make that up if we own it, though, right? And if we witness that father that is, we feel that father's perfect, and even a kid that hasn't got a father in his life, he yearns for that masculine figure. He yearns for that man in his life, that father figure to guide him and direct him. And so sometimes he makes up these fantastical stories, these fantasy-based stories of my father's this and my father's that, and he's amazing. And then we try to live up to that. And we're unconsciously wanting to seek that approval and validation from that father that was never in our lives. And so we're really hard on ourselves. But the damage that does to the people in our lives and to our sense of self and our worthiness, it's false bravado, man. We're so insecure and so much in pain, but we mask it with this exterior confidence, whether it's the athletic jock or whether it's the guy that's super, super successful or making lots of money or rising up the corporate ladder and status and titles and all of that. But we feel empty. And really, it's this drive to unconsciously fill the void of not having our father there, even if our parents are together. But if he's emotionally unavailable, he may as well be physically unavailable as well.
Yeah, because that's really the key is he can be present physically in the room, but like you said, emotionally not there, emotionally unavailable. I want to take this topic here and slightly shift of how we're discussing it. Obviously, we don't have a lot of young children listening, so we can't speak directly to the kid that is maybe going through this right now. We can speak to two different people, though. We can speak to the men listening that are fathers of how do they need to show up, and then secondly, we can speak to the grown man that is hearing this and perhaps is witnessing this taking place in his life. So, let's speak to the father. If we got somebody listening right now, and perhaps they're recognizing is I'm not being the present father that I need to be. So what do they need to ensure that they're doing to make sure that they're emotionally available, that they're not adding to their kids' unconscious development? So let's speak to them first. And then secondly, a guy that's right now is uncovering this about himself. What's the first, series of steps that he should take?
Yeah, I would say the first thing is do your inner work, right? But that's a very vague, ambiguous term. So what does that actually mean? Doing your inner work means being responsible for your own emotions, for your own healing. If you have if you've had a tough childhood, if you have a rough relationship with your parents, begin to seek help to heal those wounds, right? And importantly, part of doing the inner work is having a tribe of men around you. So as a father, you need a male support group. Whether it's literally just that, like a weekly support group that you go to where you get together with other men and you talk, you discuss, you share, you philosophize, you build shit, whatever it is that you're doing, right? It's so important that you have support as a father, because you can't do it all. But, once upon a time, man, we had a village raising children. Now it's just one parent or two parents max, if you're lucky. If you're lucky, right, it's two parents. We need support. So having other men that you can confide in, that you trust, that you respect, that you revere, and it's reciprocal and mutual, That's powerful.
Got it. Let's go to that inner working here, with the man right now that, is ready to unpack. I've heard you use the terminology manning or man in as opposed to man up. It's kind of funny. I have a man up hat on right now. But
no, I love man up. By the way.
Let's talk about man up versus man in, and let's just kind of go there.
Yeah, for me, it's a play on words. It's not. I resonate with the term man up. I don't resonate what it's become. Because what it's become is more of not for everyone, of course, but generally speaking, like this egomaniac thing. It's become this, I'm going to ignore everything that I'm experiencing, that the pain that I have, and I'm going to numb it, I'm going to avoid it, and I'm just going to keep going. Now, I'm going to say something to that. Sometimes we need that. That's part of self-reliance. That's part of being resilient. That's part of being tough, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. Like, we need that. I train my body every day because I enjoy it. And if I have to be honest, I've got a little bit of a shadow addiction to the adrenaline, right? But I'm also doing it because I'm preparing myself. I'm preparing myself for worst case scenario. Something happens where I need my body to move in action. And I can't be in a place where I'm going to think about my feelings or my fears, where I've just got to go. So I train my body and discipline my body to be able to move through pain and discomfort. So manning up is something really powerful for men. The issue is, generally speaking, it's become distorted where it largely means forget about what your issues are and pretend they don't exist and keep pursuing, keep going forward, keep being you. But the thing is, we can't be us because we're not integrating all these parts of us that we're leaving behind. That means we're not whole. That means we're fractured. That means, by definition, we feel broken. And we just keep trying to mask it with all these experiences. Sex, pornography, more money, more success, more women, whatever it may be, right? More toys. And so manning in means let's go in and do the inner work. Let's own who we are. Let's not pretend that we're someone else when we're not. And let's go inwards. Because it's real easy for men. Men are largely responsible for, good or bad or ugly, men are largely responsible for where society is today. Men have been responsible for extending the perimeter. Men have been responsible largely for exploring the external world, conquering mountains, going to new lands, building technologies to take us and travel, whether it's outer space or across the oceans, whatever it may be, right? And that's amazing. We're avid explorers. Exploration's in our DNA. But I think now the time is to match that external exploration with inner exploration. That doesn't mean being soft. That doesn't mean being leaky in our emotions, as people think that, right? It doesn't mean being vulnerable to a point where you're sacrificing yourself or losing yourself. Not at all. It means being able to share your experiences with people you trust and respect to get new context and perspective into who you truly are and who you can be. And drop the facade if there's one. Drop the ego. And it's not ego dissolution or dissolving, and I'll talk to that later. But it's dropping these masks and this armor that we've got that's protecting us from something that we're not willing to feel. So to me, it requires more courage to actually face the stuff that we're avoiding than to be on a path and pretend that we're someone that we're not.
Yeah, I want to get your whole take and philosophy on the shadow. Curious who you've kind of studied under and learned from when it comes to a lot of these things.
Oh, well, specific to the shadow, people like Freud, Carl Jung, ancient mystics as well, like Hinduism. So back here, I've got old scriptures, man. For me, old scriptures reveal a lot, right? That's where all our modern wisdom, intelligence comes from for me, for ancient wisdom, right? Ancient scriptures. So people like Joseph Campbell, cross-cultural mythologists and archetypes. Carolyn Myss, she does archetypical work. Really just looking at the archetypes, looking at Steve Biddulph as well. He's awesome. Some of the older guys from the mythopoetic era. I don't have them here. I think they're over the other side. But, Alan Watts as well, in terms of understanding shadow behavior, psychology, looking at Taoism and Taoist philosophy. And man, so many people in the ancient Greeks as well. Stoicism has been a big influence for me too. So just, mixture, man, mixture. And I continue to, his book, what I got here, Rob Bly, Iron John. It's
Iron John, great book right there.
Good.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah.
Incredible. Yeah. I love the young perspective on shadow, and ultimately, enlightenment comes with you fully not just understand your shadow, but it's been integrated. Like you have control over it. Like you can't fully love until you understand all the evil that's living inside of you. So
yeah.
So let's go there. Obviously, with the mission of the podcast here, helping men break free from addiction through the power of faith and fitness. Understanding a lot of times with these addictions and compulsive behaviors, it is this shadow. It's running from these things, and a lot of the work and focus that I do is more on that kind of growth projection out, where the way it seems you talk and speak, it's more understanding from a therapeutic standpoint, maybe difference versus coaching and consulting versus understanding therapy type of thing. And I know it's important to understand both. I think we can really provide some help and value here. So I know you don't specifically work with guys that are struggling with compulsive or addictive behaviors, but if you have somebody that comes to you and they're caught up in this, what are kind of the first series of call it exercises or practices that you would take somebody through that is really struggling with call it a porn addiction or just compulsive behavior? It doesn't have to be specifically to pornography, but anything that it's just a compulsive behavior, maybe not from a substance standpoint, more of a behavioral type of addiction.
It's a great question. So generally speaking, what I'll do is I want to get a picture of their life. Like, where do they have joy in their life? Where do they have healthy habits in their lives? And if they don't have healthy habits, I want to start them somewhere very simple: physical movement. That's everything, man. I love what you do, like with faith and fitness. You're giving someone hope. You give someone something healthy and positive to focus on, whilst generating that positive feeling through endorphins and dopamine and physiologically in the body. And so I don't want to take anything away from people. So if they say to me, I've got this porn addiction, I'm really stuck in porn, I'm masturbating 3 times a day, I'm not going to say to them, okay, stop, just stop. I'm not going to say that, because they may be able to stop for a day, maybe 2, maybe a week, but then that's just motivation. They're going to go back to it real quick and they're going to hit it even harder. I'm an additive type of person. So I want to look at their life and I want to say, where can we improve your life? Not by taking away something initially, but by adding something. Because adding something, the brain likes that. It's like, oh, I'm getting more of something. Great. So I'm going to say, you've never done the exercise before? Cool. Let's get you walking for 20 minutes. Let's get you in the gym for 20. Let's get you doing something for 20 minutes. Here's a calisthenics program, something simple, whatever it may be, depending on where they're at. But then there's people that come to me that have a very strong fitness regime, right? And they're still masturbating 3 times a day or 4 times a day, or whatever they're doing. They're addicted to porn. Then we've got to go a little bit different in terms of, okay, where can we find some other elements of joy in your life, whether it's in relationships, whether it's like a self-reflective practice. Let's get a lay of the land of where you're at. And so I'm going to get people to reflect on their lives. The ancients looked at their lives, and we don't do this in modernity, man. They looked at their lives every day, whether you call it meditation or prayer or critical self-reflection. Every day they spent some time with themselves asking, how have I been today? Were my relationships of a high quality? Did I really look after those that I care about? Could I have expressed differently today? Did I achieve my goals today? Was I on purpose today? What was stopping me from being on purpose? So I want people to get very aware of themselves without judgment. Now, whilst I'm developing these habits or helping them develop these habits, we're also unpacking how is the past unconsciously infiltrating their present. And that is more of a therapeutic process, not therapeutic, but a therapy-based process, so to speak, which involves shadow work and inner child work and so forth, but it's a very supportive process. And so generally that's where I'm going to start. Really simple. Get them engaged in healthy habits. Get them in nature. Get them drinking more water. Get them waking up at a certain time. Get them making micro commitments to themselves and overcoming or moving through micro challenges during the day, like getting up at a certain time or making your bed or whatever it may be. but are going to help them build more confidence. And that confidence sets a foundation, a platform for breaking habits that aren't healthy. But we've got to start there first.
Yeah, it's like you line yourself up with a series of small little victories that you know that you can set, achieve, and then reward yourself on a daily, constant basis. So yeah, with a pornography addiction, obviously we're highly using that dopamine neurotransmitter, and we're just firing. So we have to look at ways that we can send that same type of dopamine response, but through a different series of activities. So waking up with a morning routine, a series of, literally making your bed the first thing, like, boom, I said I'm going to do something, let me knock it out, and reward myself. Dopamine. So love what you do. Do you have a routine, like something that is working for you right now? I'm sure it probably changes and navigates, but what's your routine looking like, currently?
Yeah, definitely changing that, and I navigate that depending on where I'm feeling, but I'll cycle my routines. But generally my routine, in the morning, so my evening routine really sets up your morning routine. So I do my best to get to bed a little earlier, shut devices off 30 minutes before I sort of go to sleep. So I do some reading, just really quieten down the evening. But morning routine generally for me is I'll have a mobility and movement practice. So I do something called Tibetan 5 Rights, and then I'll do some mobility work as well, and just loosen up and for the day and so forth. I'll do some reading, about 30 to 60 minutes of reading, just depends. Sometimes a little longer if I've got the space. Then I will engage in movement. So that's my training regime at the moment. And then my quote unquote work day starts. But before I do my reading, I should say after my mobility, I've got some stillness practice and some breath practice. So that could be meditation, sitting in stillness, sitting in silence. I'll take myself through, I'm a breathwork practitioner, but I'll take myself through a series of deliberate breath techniques. And that's usually what my morning consists of.
Got it. Love it. What's the biggest thing you're seeing guys coming to you? Obviously, we're in a unprecedented time, in the world. I mean, people hearing this as it comes out. I mean, we're still going through the global pandemic. How's the current, global environment, both with the pandemic, how has it affected kind of your work and guys coming to you? What are guys coming to you struggling with most right now?
Feeling alone, man, feeling isolated. That's what, yeah. Just that, if there's the number one thing to that is feeling alone and isolated, not having anyone to connect with at a deep level. And those cracks are revealing themselves now. They're revealing themselves because business has slowed down in certain respects, going to the culture of transport and the way that business was done. It has changed rapidly. People are working from home. So if family men are feeling isolated as well, they're feeling overwhelmed because they're working from home, they're managing kids, they're managing a partner. They disappeared for 10, 12 hours of the day before. They didn't see that. It wasn't in their sphere of awareness. And those that are single are spending more and more time on their own, and they're not having that intimate contact, and it's fucking breaking them down. And so there's that isolation and loneliness and feeling of overwhelm.
Yeah, dude, that's so true. And I mean, it's anybody can fall victim to this. I mean, here I am, coach. I have guys, I get a chance to speak with incredible experts like you on a weekly basis. And I didn't even realize it was like 2 months into quarantine. I work from home, and I have for 7 years. So there wasn't a big change in that. And then the gym shut down. So that stopped one place I was going regularly. And then church shut down. And then it's like the way that, they had grocery stores set up. Like I didn't even want to go shop anymore. And it was like 2 months into this, and I'm sitting there one day and I'm like, man, I feel really down, like almost depressed in a type of way. And then I took some time to reflect on it. I was like, because I haven't seen anybody in like 2 weeks. Instantly like called somebody up, and I was like, just making sure that you get those daily connections. I was reading, I think about 2-3 weeks back. I can't remember the book, but it was something like if you're not getting 7 personal contacts on a daily basis, you're more likely to fall victim to pornography. I was studying for a course exam that I'm taking, but it was talking about the need for relationships in 7 touch points on a daily basis. 7 contact points, interaction face-to-face, Zoom call, text message, but you need 7 of those daily, or else you're like 50% more likely to fall victim to clinical depression, which can lead to an overuse of pornography. So,
Yep.
Awesome. So, a guy comes to you. So walk us through. I want to direct people. I know you have courses and one-on-one coaching, but if somebody is, hearing this and just curious, kind of like what type of guys are you looking to work with? What are some of the first things, and what can people expect if they get involved with your type of work?
Yeah, it really depends on where they come in within the ecosystem, within that journey, whether it's a high touch point, highly intimate one-on-one coaching protocol, or whether it's in one of the groups, whether it's virtual or in person. Obviously, in person has slowed down a bit now for the large group stuff because of where we're at the moment socially, but yeah, that's changing. So it just depends how they come in. But there's many ways to work together. My wife and I, we run programs together as well. We have an inner child workshop coming up at August. Level 1 is in August, and September's level 2.
Okay. Are these for individuals or for couples?
Yeah.
Individuals.
No, individuals and couples. Yeah, individuals and couples as well. Yeah, we had a great turnout last time we did it in April. You had like 300 plus people come. It was virtual as well. It's 2.5 day virtual deep dive into healing those old wounds. And so that's one way to work together. I have evergreen programs where you can just purchase programs. So there's a particular course called The Conscious Man. What does it mean to be a conscious man in today's world? That deals with relationships, that deals with addictions, that deals with purpose and vision, that deals with health and wellness. So a lot of facets of what it means to be a man in today's world. And you can come in and you can learn at your own pace, or I run those journeys multiple times a year. This year I haven't, a couple of different reasons, but I'll pick up again next year those very specific men's programs as well. And then we do, I'll do in-person stuff where I'll take men away for a weekend and run them through that curriculum. And there's additions to that as well, being in that in-person scenario.
Okay, and you said you had this inner child is launching in August.
Yeah.
Okay, so where's the best place for people to get more information?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So you can go to my wife's website, christinehassler.com/innerchild, or you can go to my website, Grow with Steph. It's one of my websites, growwithsteph.com. So that's STEF, growwithsteph.com. There's a heap of freebies there, and you'll see access to the Inner Child workshop as well.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll get all that linked up down below, guys. We'll get Steph is doing incredible content on Instagram. He's got a YouTube, so we'll link all that stuff. Make sure you give this guy a follow and tap more into understanding this ego and shadow. Dude, this has been incredible. We usually ask at the end like top 3 books, but you listed off quite a few. Are there any books you recommend here that you didn't mention in that previous? You said Iron John and some of those other titles, but
yeah, there's actually one here that's really, really good. Fire in the Belly, Sam Keen. Fire in the Belly, Sam Keen. It's a good book. Fire
in the Belly. We'll get that linked up. Down below, guys, too. Well, Steph, man, I appreciate you once again, man, for taking the time out today and just jumping on here and providing tons and tons of content and value for the audience. We always have one question we end up every podcast with. Obviously, with the title of the show, it is The Superhuman Life. Our mission is to help men break free from addiction through faith and fitness. But ultimately, the title was, it's really about a belief system. I lived 35 years really trying to figure this all out on my own, really living probably through my ego more than anything. And that came with, some success in bodybuilding, some business success. But it wasn't until I really, partnered, with the ultimate partner in life, our creator, and then took complete control of my physical. We talked about the importance of a fitness regimen, that I was able to really step into living my own superhuman life. So I always ask every guest at the end of the show, if you had to define or sum up living a superhuman life, how would Steph how would Steph describe that?
For me, man, if I even sum it up in one word, it's willingness.
Mm.
It's a willingness to traverse the unknown, to be in the mystery, to be challenged, to get uncomfortable, to celebrate life. It's a willingness, man. It's that intention to hold a willingness that no matter what is happening in life, I'm willing to be all in on life and in life. That willingness is everything for me.
Incredible. Guys, you heard it right there. Willingness to step in and live your ultimate life. Awesome, awesome stuff. Guys, you heard it here, man, from the relationship alchemist himself, Steph Sifandos. Make sure you check out his site. Make sure you get plugged into his courses. Check out those books. Learn to live man in as opposed to man up. So, guys, thank you once again for giving us your time here today. If you have not done so yet, as we do with every single episode, make sure to leave us a 5-star rating if you found value in today's episode or any episode up to this point. And obviously, if you can help to continue to grow and support the mission, just share with anybody that you think could resonate with today's message. But for Frank Rich, for Steph Sifandos, we love you all, and we'll see you soon.